All right, so now let's get to the next video. This one is like, honestly, it's like a 3-for-1 or a 4-for-1. This is packed in a pretty short time frame here. This is
Okay.
like packed with a bunch of amazing moments. Take a look.
Polls consistently show that young people's #1 issue is climate change. How will you, as both President of the United States and leader of the Republican Party, calm their fears that the Republican Party doesn't care about climate change?
So we want to start on this with a show of hands. Do you believe in human behavior is causing climate change? Raise your hand if you do.
Look, we're not school children. Let's have the debate. I mean, I'm happy to take it to start. Alexander?
So do you want to raise your hand or not?
I don't think that's the way to do. So let me just say to Alexander this. First of all, one of the reasons our country's decline is because of the way the corporate media treats Republicans versus Democrats. Biden was on the beach while those people were suffering. He was asked about it. He said, no comment. Are you kidding me? As somebody that's handled disasters in Florida, you got to be activated. You've got to be there. You've got to be present. You've got to be helping people who are doing this. And here's the deal.
Let's just answer the question. So is that a yes? Or is that a yes? Is that a hand raise?
You do not.
I think it was a hand raise for him, and it's my hands are in my pockets.
No,
because
no,
the
I
climate
didn't
change agenda is
raise
a
a
hoax.
hand.
Let us be honest as Republicans. I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a hoax. The climate change agenda is a hoax, and we have to declare independence for it. And the reality is, the anti-carbon agenda is the wet blanket on our economy. And so the reality is, more people are dying of bad climate change policies than they are of actual climate change.
Governor Haley, are you bought and paid for?
Down by
Hold on.
in the last century.
Listen.
I've had it, no,
Wait, hold on.
I've had enough. I've had enough already tonight of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here. And the last person in one of these debates, Brett, who stood in the middle of the stage and said, what's a skinny guy with an odd last name doing up here, was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur standing in stage tonight.
Come over and give me a hug. Give me a hug just like you did to Obama.
The same type of amateur.
And you'll help elect me just like you did to Obama, too. Give me that
The
bear
same
hug, brother.
type of amateur.
Hold on. Governor Haley, would you like to respond? Are you
So,
bought
Brett,
and paid
what
for?
I would like to say is the fact that I think this is exactly why Margaret Thatcher said, if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. First of all, we do care about clean air, clean water. We want to see that taken care of, but there's a right way to do it.
Now that's fun.
Yeah.
All of that was fun. I enjoyed all of that. All right.
Yeah,
so
it's like pure chaos.
yeah, so let's go through it. First of all, to the last point first, Nikki Haley chiming in there. The crowd did eat it up.
Yeah, they listen, there's there's like a soft spot for boomer feminism, Margaret, that I don't know, but
I cringed like crazy when I watched
I did
that. I
too, but,
laughed. You heard me laugh in real time. Like, seriously, this is something Republican voters are going to like?
Yeah, but,
a woman got stuff done.
as much as they would, so many of them, identity politics, etc. But when it's like their identity
I swim in it.
politics, they love it.
Oh,
they love it. And
love it.
she does have the unique position because she's the only woman on the stage. I do think that served her well because it just sort of it automatically differentiates
Do you think
her.
the men, though, because I reacted like a typical man. I reacted like I'm a Mississippi Republican man who's 58. And I was like, ugh. Do you think that that's going to be the reaction among most Republicans?
I mean, because that was her only little feminism, girl power line.
So she got away with it, you think?
I think she got away with it.
By the way,
if she was doing that every answer, people would be like, shut the fuck up. But
Interesting
since she
point.
did it once, I think she gets away with it.
Interesting point. I didn't know this at the time, but these are young students. I didn't know that at the time. Now,
in the room?
In the room. They're young
interesting.
students. So that sort of explains, which gets to, let's go back to the other point
Young
now.
students, but then the parties always put their top donors in the front. So I'm
Okay.
sure there was a good chunk of donor classes.
Yeah, and I would expect if anybody's going to react positively to that among Republicans, it would be more young ones and it would be donors.
That makes sense for the room.
So I think most Republicans will more react like I did, where I was like, ugh. Like, I just found that it's like, don't do the, I'm a woman thing. That's like, who cares? I care about your policies. Right?
Yeah.
So Vivek got booed when he said the climate change thing.
Yeah, that was surprising to me. And I watched it a couple times to be like, are they really booing him on that? Because then at the end, when he makes this abhorrent and wrong comment that like climate change mitigation kills more people than climate change, which like go look at Hawaii and everything else that's going on in the world. That got cheers. So, you know, what I found interesting about this whole exchange is, first of all, I was shocked that Fox asked this question, right? But you're living in an era where these extreme events are so present and the temperature of the ocean is so high and you're hitting all of these records over and over and over again, that even Fox News finds it sort of like undeniable and like you have to ask a question about that. I thought that was remarkable. I thought the fact that everybody on the stage, except basically Vivek, really wanted to avoid the question. They were uncomfortable.
Yeah,
and so Ron jumps in to try, because they try to do this like raise your hand.
Only one person semi-raised their hand real quick, and that was Asa Hutchinson.
So Ron jumps in to rescue everybody from the question of,
what about corporate media? How about corporate media? What are you
do you believe in human-made climate change? He jumps in, which I thought was, you know, like it's sad, but I think it was actually like a clever move to short circuit.
I disagree on that one.
I thought it was a clever move to short circuit the question, which put everybody, including himself, in a very awkward position. But then he doesn't have the skill to pivot in a way that's not obvious. So he's like, let's have the debate. Corporate media, am I right? Which just to me felt so hacky and politician. It was so obvious that it was just like, I don't want to answer this question. So when Vivek chimes in and he's like, hey, I'll answer the question. I think, you know, the climate change agenda is a hoax and here's why, blah, blah, blah. Even though it was a divisive response, and even though clearly some part of the audience was not having what he was selling, and that it was young people makes a lot more sense because even young Republicans believe in climate change and think we should be doing something about it. But I think even though it was a divisive answer, because he was so clear and not trying to like, I don't really want to deal with this one, I think it ultimately serves him well.
So here's my take on it, just to walk everybody through it. So they ask, you know, do you think climate change is real? Only Asa puts up his hand for like a split second and puts it down real quick, which all of that isn't bad. It's 2023. Now the anecdotal experience of everybody is matching up with the empirical data. This is just, it is literally psycho. And I forgot who said it, but apparently the Republican Party is like one of the only political parties in the entire world that still denies climate change. Like there are conservatives in other countries who are like, well, yeah, of course climate change is happening. So I mean, that's just, if I'm the Democrats, I put that in like every ad from now until the end of time, that they get asked a question and one person barely raised their hand and the rest of them are sitting there pretending like climate change isn't real. So I viewed DeSantis' pivot as not at all artful, incredibly clunky. I thought it was one of his worst moments, to be honest. It's one thing to dodge artfully. It's another thing to just totally, like, you just made a fool of yourself there. Like, you're trying to, I'm fighting DeSantis. But it's like, and I think even Vivek chimes in and he's like, are you going to answer the question?
Right.
Are you going to answer the question?
Yeah.
And that I thought was a good moment from him.
Right.
And then, so, you know, watching back, this is now the third time I've seen the thing that Vivek said on climate change. Oh, the agenda is a hoax or whatever. I actually don't know if the audience is booing that or it's the thing he said right before it, which is I'm the only one on this stage that's not bought and paid for. Because like you said, there's donors in the audience and maybe they were the ones who were like, boo.
Well, and also maybe they just felt it was a little too mean. Like if you're someone
that happened to Trump. When Trump said that in 2016, the same thing happened. They booed him.
Exactly. But it worked.
It worked for sure. It worked with the electorate.
And that may be the case because if you're in that room and you like, you know, Ron DeSantis, or you like Tim Scott and you think they're nice people. Like most Republicans have generally positive impressions of a number of those people out on the stage.
Right, yeah, exactly.
So they may have just in that room felt like it was too mean of a thing to say.
But so it might be that, but the other thing I noticed is after he says it, the climate change agenda is a hoax, the boos sort of get louder and longer. So I don't know if they're really booing that. It seems like maybe they're booing that, but it also seems like maybe they're reacting to the bought and paid for comment. But the final thing that happened, which we haven't addressed yet, is the Christie saying, ChatGPT. I thought that was a great line, and it got a big reaction.
That was probably, I think, Chris Christie's best moment, because it had that quality of like, even if people in the audience didn't want to laugh,
they'd laugh.
It was like involuntary because it was unexpected and it was funny and it landed. The Barack Obama part, even though Republicans hate Obama, they also envy the talent of, like, they want their own Obama. they want their own like inspirational story and the hope and change and that whole vibe. So I think it was very intentional that Vivek in his opening comments where he described himself as like a skinny guy with a funny name or whatever in Echoes of Obama, I think that was a very intentional choice.
Oh, of course it was.
Because he wants to be like the Trump, the Trump Republican version of Obama. So for Christie to echo that, I'm not sure that it really was effective. And then I thought Vivek, gave it back almost as good as he got, where he's like, yeah, you're going to help me win too.
Well. That's the problem.
But he didn't get like owned by it. It wasn't a Marco Rubio moment. I do think it was Christie's probably best because he got that involuntary response. But I thought Vivek handled it fine and it didn't really damage him.
Slight disagreement. I agree it's not as bad as what Christie did to Marco Rubio. He basically murdered him live on TV. It's not that bad, but the thing I noticed is that, Vivek's comebacks were not bad. They were actually like, if you write it down and show somebody, it's like those are solid comebacks, but he didn't land the lines properly or at the right time, so the timing was off, and you could tell that it didn't really register with the audience. So that was the biggest issue with that. But yeah, that was chaos. I enjoyed every moment of it.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.